Chapter 371, Charging into the Spirit Race Nest. The dark outer space was silent, concealing indistinct matter of the universe. Only the mother nest could be seen floating there, with the three child nests oscillating around it. Being surrounded by the sphere-like little nests, the mother nest didn't move as if it were dead. The moment the space shuttle left the wormhole, it entered a concealed state and put up a barricade against all probing signals as if it didn't exist at all. The instructor stood in front of everyone, pointed to the spirit race nest outside, and started to give a talk to the freshmen. Later on, I'll lead the soldiers and charge into the mother nest to kill the spirit mother. I'll leave those spirit children to you guys. The ranking this time around will be based on the number of spirit race you kill. First place, 1 million contribution points plus 10,000 academic points. Second place, 200,000 contribution points and 20,000 academic points. Third place, 100,000 contribution points and 10,000 academic points. Next, those in the top 10 will each receive 20,000 contribution points and 2,000 academic points. Meanwhile, those in the top 100 will each receive 10,000 contribution points and 1,000 academic points. Last but not least, every survivor will also get 1,000 contribution points and 100 academic points. The reward was unprecedentedly huge, making all the freshmen astonished. With this kind of great reward, there would definitely be people with the courage to fight for it. The freshmen were previously still in an unprecedentedly anxious state, but now they felt that this might not be a bad thing to do. It was their first time to be offered so much contribution points and academic points. They knew that this was an extremely rare case. "Get ready to engage," commanded the instructor. After putting up with the harsh training for so long, even ordinary people would have gone through a thorough transformation, let alone the fact that Fong Lin and the other freshmen were all absolute elites that had been picked from rounds of selection. They moved quickly and started to prepare themselves, entering the battle mode. In just a minute, the space shuttle's door opened. The instructor led the elite Great Wall warriors and stepped into outer space. At the instant the door opened, waves of energy emitted out. The spirit race nest in the distance was immediately alarmed from its standstill state. It was as if a massive creature had woken up. Intense radiation spread out, and many octopus-like spirit lifeforms swam forth, moving about freely in outer space. Their tentacles formed particle streams that charged over, bringing out brilliant light streams in outer space. An energy barrier appeared on the space shuttle, fending off the particle streams. The collisions produced endless amounts of sparks. Charge! The instructor gave the order and led a group of armored soldiers to the battle. These soldiers all had burly physiques and the vitality they emitted were at least on the level of grand cultivators. However, they were soldiers that the Great Wall University had recruited to build up their military force and weren't students. The Great Wall University's military force was divided into two parts, with one being the large number of soldiers that guarded the Great Wall University, while the other part being the university's students that enrolled annually. There were no age restrictions for the soldiers, and they were assessed by their cultivation and battle prowess. They protected the interstellar humans and were the Great Wall University's line of defense. These soldiers could use their contribution points to exchange for cultivation resources from the school. Moreover, some soldiers who showed outstanding potential could even be selected to enroll in the school. This was also another important channel for the Great Wall University to increase their student intake other than through the college examinations, and students were different from soldiers. What was important was their potential and not their strength. Every student was nurtured to become military officers. Once they had graduated successfully, those who were willing to stay in the school could successfully be transferred to become a military officer with actual authority, and would lead a small troop. Even the undergraduates would at least start from being a team leader the moment they entered the battlefield. They were considered to be the elites amongst elites. The instructor released the restrictions on his body, and his cultivation base shot up to the elite adept realm. He came from a martial clan and possessed an extremely strong aura that broke out from his body. It took on a material form and was like a stream of blood-red flames in outer space. The spirit life forms who were assaulted by the auras immediately broke down and dissipated into fundamental energy particles. The prowess of an elite adept wasn't something that these insignificant spirit life forms could withstand. With the instructor starting off, the many interstellar warriors followed quickly after him and charged toward the mother nest. Go! Feng Lin, Donghuang Taichu, and Augustus also led their respective team members and split up, heading for the 3 child nests. The spirit race had no gender and didn't reproduce by giving birth. Instead, they underwent binary fission. Each spirit life form started off being a spore that was separated from their parents. They would then slowly absorb energies from the universe and keep on getting stronger. The one that was in the very center of the mother nest was naturally the spirit mother. To catch the bandits, one must first capture the ringleader. That was what the instructor was aiming for. And what Feng Lin and the others needed to do was to kill as many of those spirit children as possible and not let them interfere with the main battlefield where the instructor was at. After all, although Feng Lin and the others had huge potential, it was just potential and wasn't real strength. They still didn't have the right to get involved in the official battlefield between races. ZZZ. The micromecha that Feng Lin was wearing would occasionally release piercing sounds that interfered with the spirit race's energy signal. The spirit race nest had been completely alarmed and the densely packed octopus monsters crowded over, releasing silent cries and appearing abnormally terrifying. This scene caused all the freshmen to unconsciously hold their breath. At this tense moment, Donghuang Taichu suddenly laughed out loud, attracting everyone's attention. Feng Lin, Augustus. We've been competing for so long in the 1 month of Spartan training. But those training are really too dry. Now, things are just starting to become interesting. Why don't we have a gamble? He suggested. How are we going to do it? Even Augustus started to become competitive. Feng Lin didn't say anything. This time around, we won't compete with our battle prowess. Since we're group leaders, why don't we compete on the total number of spirit race that is killed by the team that we each lead? The 2 losers will each give 100,000 contribution points and 10,000 academic points to the winner. The winner will take it all. Do you guys dare take up the gamble? Donghuang Taichu proposed an extremely daring gamble. Feng Lin smiled calmly. He could tell what Donghuang Taichu's plan was. He knew that Donghuang Taichu had been suppressed by him for so long and was feeling anxious, after having remained in second place on the newbie board. Therefore, he wished to take this daring gamble as an opportunity to close up their gap and then move up to the first place. Augustus also thought of this and appeared a little hesitant. With such a great bet on the line, if he were to lose, he would never be able to fight for the top position in the future. However, if he didn't take up the gamble and continued to advance steadily like he was doing now, the gap would remain. He would not have any chance to surpass the other 2, and he would never be able to take the lead. If he couldn't get first place, it'd be useless no matter how many academic points he had. Wealth was sought amidst danger. Thus, he was going to give it his all. All right. Augustus clenched his teeth and agreed. The pressure was now back on Feng Lin. The 2 of them stared at Feng Lin with a challenging gaze, as if asking, "Do you dare?" The team members behind Feng Lin also looked over. If Feng Lin didn't even have the courage to take on the challenge despite being their team leader and the current first place, they would doubt his abilities to lead. Since you guys want to give me academic points, it's not a bad thing. I'll accept it. Feng Lin smiled faintly and took on the challenge, not disappointing everyone else. In terms of fighting experience against the spirit race, there wasn't anyone present who could win against him. Feng Lin had the confidence that his chances of winning were the biggest. If he didn't even dare take on the challenge, then he'd be cultivating for nothing. Excellent. You're bold. Donghuang Taichu put his thumbs up and strong fighting will erupted from his eyes. Let's go. With a long cry, he led his team members and headed for his target. The three teams split up like scattered stars, integrating into the dark outer space. Chapter 372, Battlefield of the Races. Woo, woo, woo. The energy in the atmosphere caused the space here to tremble unceasingly. The spirit race nest was clearly completely alarmed. Over thousands of spirit life forms rushed out from it. Feng Lin's team and the other two teams directly rushed toward the nest. Use the spirit ray guns. Upon seeing the spirit life forms rushing over, as the captain, Feng Lin decisively gave an order. Swish, swish, swish. After his team members heard the order, they instantly entered combat mode. They took out a weapon that was made to slay the spirit life forms. The weapons shot out beams of light, turning the spirit life forms into energy particles upon contact. Almost at the same time, the two other teams led by Dongwang Taichu and Augustus also began to clash with the spirit race. Energy beams shot out from the human teams, and the combat grew increasingly intense. Rumble. Abruptly, the spirit mother nest trembled. Powerful electromagnetic waves spread out, causing turbulence in the empty surroundings. The instructor brought a group of ferocious-looking soldiers to surround a spirit monster in the form of a giant whale. The combat was as intense as a wildfire. It was truly a spectacular sight. And at this moment, the three teams weren't idle. They were also pursuing and killing their own targets. Heart Monkey Force. To deal with these common spirit life forms, Feng Lin didn't activate his Monkey King domain. Good steel shall only be used on the edge of a blade. If he revealed his trump card now, what should he do if he encountered a special situation? Feng Lin wasn't a newbie that was on his first few missions. His combat experience was extremely wealthy. Just by activating his Heart Monkey Force, he manifested numerous spirit daggers that pierced through the air, aiming for the thoughts of the spirit life forms. Although these spirit life forms had no physical body and weren't afraid of material attacks and the majority of energy attacks, they would truly die if their thoughts were extinguished. On the surface, Feng Lin didn't take any action at all. He simply closed his eyes. But as the spirit life forms neared him, all of them would scream in agony. They then exploded into storms of energy before disappearing forever. In the end, the spirit life forms started to fear Feng Lin. They instinctively hid away, deciding to target others instead. But how could Feng Lin spare them? His Heart Monkey Force surged out as he continued to reap their lives. 52, 53, 54, 99, 100, 101. His ID microchip would constantly update the number of kills. The kill count of his team surged up explosively. Upon seeing how mighty their captain was, the courage and morale of the team members behind him were greatly boosted. Energy waves arced through the sky, instantly suppressing the tide of the spirit life forms, occupying the advantage. From afar, Dongwang Taichu and Augustus weren't willing to admit defeat when they saw this. They unleashed all their techniques to push up their kill count as well. Golden Crow Fiery Rain. Dongwang Taichu spread his body out recklessly in space, adopting a posture that resembled the character. Golden flames then manifested, gushing out from him. These flames were incomparably hot and pure, no impurities were found within. The moment those spirit life forms got near, their energy bodies would disintegrate as they exploded into sparks. Heaven Holy Light. Augustus's wings opened up wide, emitting a pure white light that formed halos as they dispersed outwards. Under the white light, the spirit life forms were forced to reveal their ugly faces before exploding into atoms. The three captains unleashed their prowess. They were invincible on the battlefield, and it felt like nothing could stop them. Their team members followed behind them, but they weren't very useful. Fire, frost, water. All sorts of energy blasted out with different techniques, yet it was not that effective. Spirit life forms were without substance and form. Unless they were hit by special types of energy, it was very difficult to deal damage to them. But it wasn't a solution if everyone simply depended on Feng Lin and the two other captains. More and more spirit life forms rushed out from the caves. They were like the mighty tides of the ocean. One must note that the three of them had a bet. They wanted to see which of the teams could obtain the highest kill count of the spirit races. No one wanted to lose. It was impossible to win depending on themselves alone. Golden Fire Robe. Donghuang Taichu sent out a bunch of flames that formed robes of fire that enveloped his team members. Those people were extremely happy when they saw this. The robes of fire lent the characteristics of true fire to their attacks. They could heavily injure the spirit life forms like this. This caused the spirit race to suffer heavy casualties. Holy light purification. Augustus continued to chant holy verses. The holy light from him spread out and enveloped his team members in layers of white light. Bang, bang, bang. Those people attacked unarmed and some with weapons. The purification effect assisted them, and they crushed the spirit life forms with ease. Upon seeing that the two of them were already acting, Feng Lin naturally wouldn't hold back. Heart Monkey Empowerment. This was the first time he used the Heart Monkey Force to empower his team members. What energy is this? So strange. I feel that my strength has increased. I feel that my speed has been enhanced. These freshmen were all extremely shocked. They had no idea what technique did their captain just use. It wasn't like the other two captains who had to split their own power to share it with their team members. This was more akin to a direct buff to their strength and speed. The buff was neutral by nature and the amount of enhancement depended on individuals. Boom. Fire spewed out, creating eruptions. Chi. Lightning and thunder took the form of spears as they pierced through space. Woo! A raging wind kicked up, causing wind blades to materialize, wanting to lacerate all the enemies before them. The spirit life forms instantly encountered heavy casualties. With Feng Lin and the other two captains leading the way, they swam against the currents of the spirit tide, slaughtering out a pathway. The three teams competed with each other, no one wanted to lose out. The end result was that the spirit life forms were continuously being hunted, causing their casualties to increase exponentially. Roar, roar, roar. At this moment, twisting figures appeared from the nest. The spirit life forms were no virtuous beings, they started to counterattack. Their invisible bodies joined together and formed a loop, interlocking with each other to create a giant electromagnetic loop. Energy gushed forth from their bodies, gathering in the loop. The electromagnetic force grew stronger and stronger as a violent aura surged out. Rumble. An extremely thick ball of electromagnetic energy blasted out. It shone resplendently and contained enough power to destroy the heavens and earth. Everywhere it passed, destruction followed. No good. Feng Lin and the other two were astonished when they saw this scene. If they blocked this cannon shot head-on, the members of their teams would definitely suffer heavy injuries. Monkey King Domain. At this moment, Feng Lin no longer held back. His domain was activated, becoming corporeal, resembling a mirror that blocked the cannon shot. Reverse for me. Feng Lin's face was flushed from the effort. He exerted his full strength as he pushed back the cannon shot fiercely. Boom. All of a sudden, the shot was reflected back, heavily slamming into the gigantic loop formed by the spirit life forms. 10 crows up in the sky. 10 lumps of golden flames soared into the air, like there were 10 suns in the air. The light from them shone downwards, causing the temperature in this area to surge. The fire energy gathered together and blasted toward the spirit life forms, wanting to incinerate them all. Heaven Punishment Sword. Augustus raised his hands as a gigantic sword of light that was incomparably large suddenly slashed down toward the spirit life forms ruthlessly. The electromagnetic loop exploded into pieces. But by using these two powerful moves, Augustus and Donghuang Taichu was greatly exhausted. They were currently panting due to the effort. However, Feng Lin was different from them. He borrowed their force to fight them. The energy consumption on his part wasn't too much. He could still advance forward with great momentum. The two others gritted their teeth and followed closely after him. After an intense battle, the three teams finally appeared before the spirit nest. They respectively launched their attacks, shooting out beams of light and torrents of energy, using all their methods to destroy the nest. The three captains heaved a sigh of relief when they saw the situation. Although the process was tiring, things weren't too dangerous for them when their three teams combined forces. Boom, boom, boom. The spirit mother nest suddenly vibrated as blood and chi towered up the sky. Evidently, the instructor and the warriors he led had occupied the advantage and should have killed the spirit giant beast, right? Seems like the mission this time around wasn't as difficult as previously imagined. Everyone relaxed. At this moment, from the signal of the micromechas, a voice filled with incomparable agony could be heard. Within the spirit mother nest, an extremely pathetic-looking figure could be seen. Both his legs were severed and he was covered in bloody wounds. At this moment, all expressions of fierceness could no longer be seen on his face. The look on his face was replaced by one of incomparable terror. Flee, quickly flee now. We were tricked. Before he could finish his sentence, an explosion suddenly erupted. The space where the person was at exploded as a gigantic black sphere akin to a black hole appeared. This black sphere opened its mouth and devoured that person completely in a single gulp. All of this happened in an instant, everyone was still in a daze. And at this moment, a new message was transmitted to their ID microchips. There were two words written in blood-red text. Final Mission. Chapter 373, Final Mission. The Devil Training ended in advance. The final mission is this: spare no expense to return to the university alive. There are still traitors of the spirit race among our students, and these spies leaked the information. Their objective is to lure you all here to the spirit black hole-like existence, seeking to destroy as many human geniuses as possible, killing the hope of humanity. After the words "Final Mission," lines of text appeared. The message was extremely terrifying. The instructor must have died. Thus, the devil training had ended in advance. The content of the message was simply too important. This made Feng Lin and the other freshmen unable to adapt so quickly. Also, this was just a simple introduction. There were still many truths hidden within. Feng Lin and the two other captains felt their hearts sinking to the bottom of the valley. Everything happened in an instant. The instructor and warriors were actually devoured instead. There was no need to speculate about their endings if they stayed here. Look quickly. A voice suddenly called out. Feng Lin glanced in the direction that was pointed out. Piu, piu. That gigantic black sphere truly seemed to resemble a black hole, yet it radiated hints of life. It must be a living creature. After it devoured the instructor and all the warriors, it was actually rapidly expanding in size. Spirit black hole life form? What the hell was it exactly? Feng Lin stood from afar. He narrowed his eyes. This life form seemed to be a higher tier existence even when comparing it to a spirit giant beast. This spirit nest basically wasn't an ordinary nest. How could such a terrifying life form exist? Not good. Feng Lin was suddenly shocked awake from his thoughts when he recalled the message recorded by the instructor for this mission. The instructor used his death to investigate the truth. This mission was basically a trap to lure over the freshmen of the Great Wall University. The black sphere life form was the final trap meant to devour them all. All of these freshmen were people with high talents among their peers. They all had the potential to become future officers for the military. If this batch of freshmen were all killed, the Great Wall University would suffer a heavy loss. This plan was so simple and could be seen through easily. Yet, the Great Wall University actually approved this as a freshman-level mission. There must be spies in higher echelons of the university that cooperated with the spirit race. Numerous thoughts flashed through his mind, causing him to feel fear. But this wasn't the time to think too much. Feng Lin drew a deep breath. If they weren't able to escape the calamity today, there would be endless troubles in the future. All these secrets would be buried in this spirit nest, and no one would know anything. Probably, the spies precisely wanted this to happen. Pooh, pew, pew. The black sphere swelled up. After that, it actually began to rapidly divide itself into countless smaller spirit life forms. At the start, there were only tiny octopuses. But as they rapidly absorbed the radiation energy of the universe, they grew very quickly and started to move over, wanting to surround the teams. These spirit monsters could be seen everywhere. The vast majority of the surroundings were packed with them. If they didn't leave now, they would not be able to leave anymore. Flee. Even the instructor had died, Feng Lin wouldn't be so foolish to rush up recklessly. No matter how powerful his techniques were, it was impossible to kill all of these spirit life forms. He didn't say anything else and immediately gave the order to flee. The spirit life forms instantly surged over frenziedly like the tides, wanting to engulf the freshman within. Monkey King Domain. Full force activation. They were going to be heavily surrounded. This wasn't the time to hold back. Every second they were delayed, the amount of danger would increase proportionally. Feng Lin couldn't be bothered about the consumption rate of his genetic force. He unleashed his Monkey King domain to the maximum effect. A faint layer of azure light formed a circular area around him. The moment those spirit life forms rushed in, they were instantly blasted into pieces by various types of energy. Everywhere Feng Lin passed by, that place would become a blank space. All the spirit life forms would die. They were everywhere. It felt like they had poked a hornet's nest. The swarms of spirit life forms seemed endless. Feng Lin rushed forward, leading the others. He was like a powerful sword gleaming with sharpness, like a light that lit up the path for those behind him. Those freshmen also immersed themselves in the killing of the spirit life forms. They followed their captain and charged ahead. Looking at the imposing figure in front, their worried hearts suddenly felt more at ease. They could feel a tiny sense of security now. If they turned their heads back, they would see a space that was completely filled with spirit life forms. They had no way to escape and could only surge forward, opening up a path by slaughter to find a strand of hope for survival. Flee. 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 The situation was growing increasingly threatening by the second. Wind, fire, lightning, thunder, all sorts of elemental energy frenziedly flowed around Feng Lin. His heart monkey force permeated the surroundings, and the energy he could control in the Monkey King domain was unleashed fully, becoming a zone of absolute slaughter for the spirit life forms. But at the same time, his strength was rapidly sapped. Feng Lin turned pale, but he gritted his teeth and persevered. Boom. Pooh. From afar, the light of flames towered up into the sky, a sword beam also slashed down, exuding incomparable radiance. Everywhere the attacks passed, countless spirit life forms were destroyed. Donghuang Taichu and Augustus were also attacking with full power, wanting to break out from the siege. At this moment, no one cared about the earlier bet. Staying alive was the most important. Rumble. The metal cudgel in Feng Lin's hands danced about, manifesting hurricanes. The energy windstorm swept over, turning the spirit life forms into spirit paste. Woo, woo, woo. The golden flames blazed brilliantly. It was unknown when did Donghuang Taichu take out a spear. His spear sparkled with light as he radiated an intense killing might. Chi, chi, chi. Sword beams pierced through the sky. Augustus seemed to become one with his sword. He drew 10 crosses in the air, shattering the spirit life forms that rushed at him. The 3 of them were the top-ranking freshmen and truly did live up to their reputations. Their cultivation bases and strength were top-notch. When they unleashed their full strength, they domineeringly carved out a path through pure slaughter. Fortunately, the instructor had time to warn them before he died, thus allowing them to flee at the fastest speed. Very soon, the floating flying shuttle appeared within their vision. Rush over. The three captains had a look of joy on their faces. They gathered their last bit of energy and rushed over. The shuttle's AI sensed their arrival, and the door to the shuttle was instantly opened. The three teams of freshmen all rushed into the shuttle with their fastest speed. The moment they entered, the shuttle instantly activated an energy protection barrier, blocking those spirit life forms outside. Who? After that, many of the freshmen instantly collapsed on the floor as they panted heavily. All of them were weighed down by fatigue, lingering fear could be seen on their faces. They had almost failed to return. Bang, bang, bang. The light in the shuttle suddenly flickered and dimmed. Before the freshmen could catch their breaths, the flying shuttle was already completely surrounded by the spirit life forms. These spirit life forms treated energy as their food. They surrounded the flying shuttle and took large bites out of the energy protection barrier, devouring the power within. Once the barrier was broken, everyone in the flying shuttle would be exposed before the army of the spirit life forms. Their fates would be the same as the instructor and the warriors. Oi, quick! Think of an idea or we would all die. This is just a training, how is it possible that we encounter such a situation? The freshmen all panicked. Donghuang Taichu and Augustus exchanged glances as they frowned. They couldn't think of any ideas. However, the situation wasn't beneficial for them if they continued to drag on. There was a limit to the energy in the protective barrier. Once the spirit lifeforms devoured the energy cleanly, everyone would die. Just when everyone was extremely flustered, a calm voice rang out, silencing the clamors. I have an idea. Feng Lin spoke. Tell us. BZZ numerous pairs of eyes turned to Feng Lin, filled with hope and anticipation. Feng Lin didn't waste time. He decisively spoke, explode the flying shuttle. What? Chapter 374, Frenziedly Fleeing for One's Life. Explode the flying shuttle? What joke is this? Without the flying shuttle, wouldn't we all be dead? No, absolutely not. A tossed stone caused a 1,000-layered wave to manifest. The moment Feng Lin spoke, everyone instantly objected. Quarreling voices could be heard everywhere. Yet, Feng Lin was as calm as ever. Feng Lin, what do you mean? Donghuang Taichu asked in a heavy voice. Exploding the flying shuttle. Do you want us to be completely exposed in outer space? There are so many spirit life forms out there, how can we survive? Augustus's expression turned unsightly. That's right, what shitty idea is this? Are you trying to harm us? If you are ignorant, don't speak blindly. As the two other captains exhibited their doubts, their team members began to shout again one after the other. Feng Lin wasn't angered. He merely smiled coldly. When it comes to fighting against the spirit race, tell me if you are more experienced or I am. The volume of this sentence wasn't great, but it effectively silenced everyone. Everyone exchanged glances. They suddenly recalled that Feng Lin was a bane to the spirit race. When the Great Qin flying shuttle was attacked, he managed to kill his way out and survived despite the fact that his cultivation base back then was very low, merely an elite cultivator. This was what led him to become a legend in the university. If based on one's understanding of the spirit race, who could rival him? Donghuang Taichu and Augustus exchanged glances and started to speak. Feng Lin, it isn't that we are doubting you. But your plan is too crazy. That's right. Without the protection of the flying shuttle, how can we kill all the spirit life forms out there? The other freshmen all nodded in agreement. Look, Feng Lin didn't answer them. He merely pointed outside. Everyone glanced over. Their eyes widened as their hearts palpitated with fear. The outside of the flying shuttle was completely surrounded. There were no gaps at all. Even starlight couldn't enter the window. It was like the flying shuttle was surrounded by a layer of membrane. The protective barrier wouldn't last for long. The energy within it kept gushing out due to the spirit lifeforms devouring it. Feng Lin slowly spoke, "If we don't explode the flying shuttle, will we have a chance of victory?" These spirit lifeforms treat energy as their food. If we continue waiting here, the energy in the protective barrier would be devoured sooner or later, and the flying shuttle would become nothing but a pile of scrap metal. It wouldn't be able to block the advance of the spirit race. At that point in time, escape is impossible even if we wanted to do so. Hence, if we continue waiting like this, we would simply be waiting for our deaths. Then what solution do you have? Donghuang Taichu heavily spoke. Although his background was extraordinary, he had never encountered such a dangerous situation before. It was understandable that he would panic. The others also glanced over, understanding the gravity of the situation. There's only one method. Feng Lin was as calm as ever. We have to use other flying equipment, and at the point of explosion, all of us will split up and flee to prevent all of us from being surrounded again. One must know the logic of never placing all eggs in one basket. All of us are shouldering the final mission given to us in exchange for the instructor's life. We have to do this cautiously, we cannot all die here. He calmly explained. Even in such a dangerous situation, he didn't lose his calm and thought of a solution that had the highest possibility to succeed. The other freshmen couldn't help but nod when they heard his logic. They were freshmen, but they were also soldiers. In such a dangerous battle against another race, understanding flashed in their eyes. Sizzle. The energy of the flying shuttle was being devoured rapidly. The lights in the interior kept flickering, growing dimmer and dimmer, almost to the point of darkness. The energy of the flying shuttle is being exhausted. 18%, 17%, 16%, the flying shuttle's AI warned. The faces of everyone was filled with terror. If this carried on, things would be as what Feng Lin had said. Once the flying shuttle lost its energy completely, it would be destroyed. At that time, the countless spirit life forms would swamp them completely. They wouldn't even have a chance to fight at all. Right. Now that things had come to this state, Donghuang Taichu and Augustus exchanged a mutual glance and decisively agreed. What do you want to do? Make your preparations then. Feng Lin calmly spoke. All freshmen will be split into 3 teams, and we shall break out from 3 different directions. Those with collapsible shuttles, don't be selfish. Take out the shuttles and let others board as well. In such dangerous times, if you still want to hold back, none of us will be able to live. Right. When the flying shuttle here explodes, I will activate my collapsible flying shuttle, the Golden Crow. Members of the second team will board my ship with me. Donghuang Taichu took the lead and spoke. People of the third team will board my Angel. Augustus also stated. These two were from interstellar mythological clans that had deep foundations. Although the price of a collapsible space shuttle was priceless, it wasn't difficult for them to obtain one. The members of the first team shall board my Flower Fruit Mountain. Feng Lin spoke after that. This caused the perspectives of many people to change. After such a long time, those people present were all very clear about Feng Lin's background. Feng Lin came from an extremely inferior and desolate region in the solar system. His foundation was too shallow. Yet, he could take out an object like a collapsible shuttle? It seemed like all of them had underestimated him. Make your preparations. Feng Lin commanded. The existing state of affairs was too urgent. The freshmen didn't have time to dispute anything. They rapidly made their preparations, regulated their breathings, and checked their equipment, etc. These actions continued silently, and the atmosphere grew increasingly tense. This was because everyone was very clear about the danger they had to face soon. If they were the slightest bit careless, they would definitely die a miserable death. The flying shuttle has activated self-destruction mode. Countdown begins. 10, 9, 8. The countdown began, stirring the hearts of people. Everyone, let's meet again if we are able to. I hope that we can see each other once more at the university. At this moment, Phong Lin smiled. His smile was so relaxed and confident, easing the tension in the hearts of everyone. After that, many people began to smile as well. 3, 2, 1. Boom. In outer space, a radiant ball of sparks suddenly erupted forth. The metallic shell cracked as a boundless energy storm blasted outwards along with the broken shards. The spirit life forms outside were forcefully dissipated from the blast and became the most basic atoms in the universe. A gigantic hole had appeared in the sea of spirit life forms. And amidst the explosions, while taking advantage of the lapse of the spirit race's concentration, 3 flying shuttles abruptly shot out in 3 different directions. Chi, chi, chi. Sharp electromagnetic waves suddenly rang out in the air. Those spirit life forms began to roar in rage as they surged over in pursuit. Bang, bang, bang. A bright light flashed as the 3 shuttles opened fire simultaneously, shooting out countless light cannons and leaving behind resplendent trails in the air. Countless spirit life forms that were unfortunate enough to be in the radius of the attacks were instantly disintegrated into sparks. But even so, more and more spirit octopuses floated over, wanting to engulf the 3 shuttles. Rumble. The 3 flying shuttles unleashed their maximum firepower, ignoring the energy consumption. They took advantage of the hole created in the wall of spirit life forms by the explosion and rushed out with their greatest speed. Long trails of spirit life forms could be seen following behind each shuttle, but soon after, the 3 shuttles vanished into the horizons, each could no longer see the other. Now, their lives depended on their fates. The path ahead was filled with endless danger. Chapter 375, Subduing Everyone. In the vast starry space. The area ahead was completely empty, with no spirit life forms in sight. Sighs of relief could be heard within the flying shuttle. How fortunate. We finally escaped. We are going to be safe now. Inside the Flower Fruit Mountain space shuttle, everyone began to chatter in excitement. All of them felt joyful for having escaped the calamity. Those spirit life forms earlier were simply like a gigantic sea that wanted to engulf everything. Their numbers caused despair to arise in the hearts of everyone. Finally, they saw a chance to flee and survive. Numerous gazes turned to the figure in the lead as looks of being impressed could be seen on their faces. If it wasn't for Phong Lin being so decisive, it wouldn't be possible for them to escape. They might truly have died there. When they thought back to it, all of them felt a lingering fear. Phong Lin hadn't completely relaxed. He pointed to the back of the flying shuttle. Don't be happy too early, look behind us. Everyone turned their heads back and a moment later, waves of shock filled their hearts. Countless spirit life forms gathered together, forming a torrent. Their numbers were countless. From afar, that spirit black hole was truly like a bottomless pit. It kept dividing itself to create spirit bodies to chase after them. Behind the flying shuttle, a long trail of spirit life forms formed again. It seemed impossible to shake them off no matter what. Quick, quick, quick. Hurry up and flee, the freshmen shouted in shock. They were afraid of being surrounded by the spirit life forms again. In truth, they didn't need to say anything at all. Phong Lin had long made his preparations. AI, enter the wormhole. Yes, Captain, replied the AI instantly. A rumbling sound could be heard, and the energy in the flying shuttle was instantly consumed by over 20% as it flew into a wormhole tunnel. The surrounding space twisted as countless stars flitted by them. That's great, we can return to the university after 3 hours. After entering the wormhole, those spirit life forms would no longer be able to catch up to us. We have truly escaped. The moment they entered the wormhole, those spirit life forms vanished without a trace. It seemed like they had successfully shaken them off their tails. And given how vast the universe was, it was probably impossible for the spirit life forms to find them. They would be able to return to the university in 3 more hours. And no matter how fierce the spirit race was, they wouldn't dare to get near the university. Even for that fearsome spirit black hole that devoured the instructor, if it dared get near the university, the powerful human experts would instantly shatter it into pieces. Many thanks, Phone Lin. If it weren't for you, we would surely not be able to escape today. After returning to the university, we will pay our gratitude. In the past, when you became the captain, I was a little unhappy. But now, I am truly convinced. Luckily, you are the captain, or we might really have died here today. The freshman heaved a sigh of relief. Earlier, although Phone Lin took first place on the newbie board and became a captain, not many people were convinced by him. But now, there were no questions about his qualifications at all. The truth was before their eyes. He first took the lead and domineeringly killed the spirit life forms. He even came up with a plan to explode their flying shuttle to seize an opportunity to escape. Such decisiveness wasn't something ordinary people were capable of. Only now did they realize that there was a reason why Phone Lin was at the top for such a long time, and yet Donghuang Taichu and Augustus couldn't catch up to him. However, when faced with the thanks of his fellow classmates, Phone Lin was frowning. He didn't say anything, but a strange smile suddenly appeared on his face. We've escaped? He seemed to have sensed something and continued, flying shuttle, exit the wormhole immediately. What? Immediately exit from the wormhole? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to kill us all? You can't do this. The moment Phone Lin spoke, sounds of objections rang out. The expressions of the freshmen all drastically changed. However, they weren't the ones to decide things. One must note that this flying shuttle belonged to Phone Lin. There's no room for discussion. This is an order. Phone Lin couldn't be bothered to waste time speaking nonsense with them. AI exit the wormhole. No, a group of people rushed over, wanting to stop him. However, things were too late. The AI had already responded. The wormhole is open, commencing exit. A tunnel appeared in the wormhole ahead of them. One could already see the astral rivers of the external universe outside. Phone Lin, we have only been in the wormhole for less than 10 minutes, what are you trying to do? If the spirit life forms catch up to us, you won't be able to live too. This flying shuttle would be destroyed as well. What evil schemes do you have in your heart exactly? All the freshmen were completely puzzled. Could this Phone Lin be a traitor? But this shouldn't be so. If he really was one, there was no need for him to bring up the suggestion of exploding the shuttle to save the other students. There were too many puzzling secrets within which made them unable to understand. Phone Lin didn't explain because the answer was right before their eyes. The wormhole opened, and just when the flying shuttle was about to exit, the space and the surroundings trembled. Ong! A powerful energy wave gushed over, and a particle storm manifested all of a sudden. The freshmen couldn't say anything more. All of a sudden, in the depths of the wormhole before them, a gigantic spirit whale appeared. It howled and directly rushed over. Not good, increase speed and exit the wormhole immediately. Phone Lin shouted. Huge blasts of flames shot out from the back of the flying shuttle as its speed instantly increased. But even so, it was still a bit too slow. The gigantic spirit whale ruthlessly headbutted over, and the impact caused Phone Lin and the others to feel that their world was spinning. A howl of reluctance could be heard. They managed to exit the wormhole in the end. Also, because they had stayed in the wormhole for 10 minutes, they managed to save roughly about 10 light-years worth of distance to the university. In the real world, no matter how fast something was, nothing could surpass light speed. If the spirit lifeforms wanted to search for them, they would undoubtedly need a huge amount of time to do so. The degree of destruction to the flying shuttle is at 32.2%. The flying shuttle finally managed to stabilize itself and reported a figure. "Send out the robots to repair it," Feng Lin commanded. He turned his head and stared at those students who finally managed to climb to their feet after the impact. He calmly continued, "Now, you all should know why I had to exit the wormhole, right?" Many freshmen were still feeling fear. How dangerous. The shuttle was almost shattered into pieces. Only now did they understand that Feng Lin had anticipated this. The members of the spirit race are energy life forms. Once they grow into a gigantic beast, they would have the ability to enter the wormhole and attack their targets. By entering into a wormhole, we can only flee from those spirit octopuses, but if the time we took is too long, the spirit giant beasts would surely chase. We can only enter wormholes for short periods and exit it constantly, hastening our journey bit by bit. We cannot afford to stay too long in the wormholes. Maybe only about 10 minutes at most, or our tracks would be discovered by the spirit giant beasts. Next time, we might no longer be so lucky, said Feng Lin coldly. So this was the case. Everyone felt a sense of lingering fear. If it weren't for Feng Lin, they wouldn't know about this. They would have continued traveling through the wormhole, and their endings then would have been unimaginably dire. What should we do next? Everyone no longer dared to doubt Feng Lin. I hope that no one will defy my future orders. If something like that happened once more, I will ask the person to leave my shuttle and survive on his own out here in the outer space. His tone was as sharp as a sword, not giving them face at all. The expressions of everyone instantly turned ugly when they heard that. They were all geniuses among their peers. Now that they were berated by someone from their generations, they would naturally feel frustrated. But when they thought of the terrifying consequences of disobedience, all of their hearts trembled with fear. Without Feng Lin to lead the way, their situation would only become even more dangerous. How would they be able to survive? How could they travel through the universe? They would die for sure. Even after a long time passed, no one complained or objected. Feng Lin nodded silently when he saw this scene. He knew that since these proud freshmen didn't object, it meant that they had already silently accepted this and had submitted to him. In extreme situations, one could only use extreme methods. The future path was still very long. If their hearts weren't united and they didn't want to obey his orders, that would put everyone in even more danger. There's plenty of space in the flying shuttle, so find your own place to make your preparations and rest. There's still a very long path ahead of us. Try to adjust yourselves to your most optimal states, allowing all of you to be able to face any dangerous situations. After saying that, he left it to the AI to assign rooms for them. After the damage that the Flower Fruit Mountain had suffered, Feng Lin made some changes to its interior and exterior through repairs. It was now different from before. Feng Lin then returned to the control cabin and began to ponder over the situation. Ever since he came to the Great Wall University, he had never lived a single day in peace. There were unexpected things every day. It was fine if it was 1 or 2 times. But how could there be so many unexpected accidents happening? This definitely wasn't a coincidence. Feng Lin could sense an intense feeling of unease. It was like he had a premonition that a giant calamity would occur soon. This feeling felt like the lava and magma of a volcano were gathering its strength in preparation for a powerful eruption. Once it erupted, the commotion caused would definitely affect the entire Great Wall University and maybe even the universe. For weaker cultivators, maybe just brushing past the edges of the calamity would already cause them to die. The path ahead was still long, and he had to make his preparations in advance. Chapter 376, Killing-Type Alchemy Pill Technique. There were bound to be many currents flowing in the dark. The situation in the universe seemed stable, but for him to meet calamity time after time again was clearly abnormal. The currents in the dark were churning. Once they reached the surface, they would form huge waves that sought to engulf everyone with unstoppable momentum, sweeping aside all obstruction. It seemed that humans had been living in peace for a very long time, but the danger was never far away. Humanity had experienced many interstellar battles through several thousands of years and had its share of victory and defeat. The various alien races were all in trepidation of each other. Not a single alien race had the confidence to say that they would be able to devour their enemies in a single gulp. Hence, a fragile state of balance was reached. Once a great war erupted, the casualties would surely be extremely great. No race would be able to endure this. But now, the spirit race had attempted to act against the freshmen of the Great Wall University multiple times. Their actions had basically broken the fragile state of balance. Once the news of this circulated, everyone in the Great Wall University as well as the interstellar clans would surely be shaken by this commotion. Performing large-scale operations to wipe out geniuses among the freshmen of humanity? Such actions had already crossed the bottom line of the human race. But maybe, the spirit race didn't give a damn at all. Maybe, they had long since wanted an excuse to start a war with the human race. Feng Lin silently sighed. All of these were his conjectures, but it wasn't just mere guesses. His premonition also faintly hinted that this was the truth. For him, it hadn't been easy to climb up until here. He experienced many dangers in his growth and had nurtured an extremely sharp sense of danger. If he wasn't vigilant enough, he would have already died countless times. And this time, he could feel that familiar sense of crisis telling him that a calamity would happen soon. Things appeared calm on the surface, but once an eruption occurred, the entire universe would tremble from the commotion. War was coming. If they didn't make advanced preparations, the loss could very well be predicted. But this was also a huge opportunity from another perspective. Feng Lin didn't feel fear in his heart. He told himself that he would act even more cautiously from now on. Since ancient times, when calamity arrived, countless people would surely die. However, there would be some people that could seize the opportunities and grow even stronger, climbing higher and higher. A chaotic situation had always been a slaughter ground for the mediocre, but an arena for heroes. It was often a prelude to a new era. How could anyone rise in calm waters? Only through chaos would there be ripples that could upset the current state of things. Feng Lin's eyes gleamed with sharpness. The scene in his mind was extremely majestic and fascinating, but it was useless to think so much now. What was important right now was to survive the hunt of the spirit race. If he couldn't survive this, everything would be nothing but a foolish fantasy. The journey to flee from death had just begun. Although things would be dangerous, Feng Lin already had some experience before, he didn't panic too much. The flying shuttle emitted light from its back cannon, rapidly speeding through the dark space. Within the control cabin, Feng Lin sat there cross-legged, having his eyes closed in meditation while his thoughts spun quickly. Spirit lifeforms possessed energy bodies. They were formless and had no substance, making it extremely troublesome to deal with them. Ordinary people would surely find it extremely tough. Without special energy attacking methods, it was very hard to deal any damage to the spirit race. For this training mission, Feng Lin had already discovered this point. Although there were many freshmen, their numbers weren't even 10% of the spirit races. The vast majority of attacks by the freshmen landed on air, completely ineffective. It was also impossible for Feng Lin to constantly use his heart monkey force to augment their strength. Each team had about 300+ members. It was far from sufficient if everyone depended on him alone. He wasn't a babysitter in any case. The other members had to come out with some effective methods and not be solely dependent on him. But what should they do? Their existing scientific methods were useless. It was also impossible for cultivation to increase their strength within such a short time. Cultivation required constant, repeated efforts for a length of time before one could grow stronger. It was impossible to take a step and instantly soar into the sky. Moreover, after becoming a grand cultivator, Phong Lin had to slowly accumulate his genetic potential again. Any improvements would be much slower compared to before. Even if he strengthened his genes by a point or two, what use would there be? Before this dangerous situation, the strength of one man was useless. They had to work and chain their strengths perfectly together, or victory was impossible. This time, the situation was much worse compared to what Phong Lin had encountered before. This place was the outer space outside of the Milky Way galaxy. There weren't many planets here, and the amount of cultivation resources they could excavate would also be drastically reduced. And now, they were still 3,000 light-years away from the Great Wall University. If they kept flying through the physical world, it would be impossible for them to surpass light speed. If they continued flying at such a turtle speed, they wouldn't be able to reach the university even after 3,000 years had passed. All of them would have long passed away due to old age. They had to travel in wormholes no matter what. But every time they traveled through a wormhole, there would be a risk of encountering a giant spirit beast's ambush. And every time they entered and exited a wormhole, 20% of the shuttle's energy would be consumed. They could only repeat this for a few more times before being drained dry. In the end, they would end up drifting through the universe and die. A perilous situation. This truly was a perilous situation. Phong Lin rubbed the center of his brows. He felt a deep sense of helplessness. Their group of people entered a perilous situation where there was almost no hope at all. For a time, he had no ideas as well. This was truly depressing. Despite the fact that Phong Lin's will was like iron, it was gradually ground away by despair. No, there should be a solution. Phong Lin's thoughts spun rapidly. If he gave up now, everyone would truly have no hope at all. An invisible pressure bore down on him. He had to think of something. The most important thing was that he didn't want to die. So what should he do? Phong Lin had awakened mental-type genes, thus, his thinking was exceptionally sharp. Right now, he could only try and search for a solution. Science and technology was useless. Increasing his cultivation base rapidly was impossible. In that case, the only thing left was alchemy. But wasn't alchemy a method to cure people? No, this wasn't the case. A memory floated up in his mind. Phong Lin abruptly awakened and he saw the light at the end of a tunnel. He rapidly began to recall the memories in his sea of consciousness. Furnace alchemy technique. It also had information regarding killing-type alchemy pills. The knowledge of his inheritance appeared in his mind. The majority of alchemy techniques were to create miraculous pills that could benefit the constitution of one's inner health. But there were also exceptions. Alchemy pills could be split into internal and external pills. Internal alchemy pills could upgrade one's life tier quality, when external pills often contained strange and wondrous might. In ancient Huaxia era, the earliest batch of gunpowder actually sprang from alchemy. In true alchemy, there was a specific type of existence known as cinnabar. Cinnabar was produced from the refinement of minerals and metallic elements. They contained large amounts of toxin, and it was impossible to consume them. However, they contained great power within, and once the power was unleashed, the effect would be immensely great. Should he create cinnabar? Phong Lin silently mused. Regardless of what effects the cinnabar might have, this was the only path of survival before them. It was worth a try. He hurriedly started the process. His fingers were like butterflies weaving through flowers as he inputted some of the cinnabar formulas he knew into the ship's AI. Begin to search for ingredients in the storage that would cause the greatest harm to life. Their properties have to match or be similar to the medicinal ingredients listed in the formulas I've inputted. Ding, ding, ding. The AI flashed and began to execute the order. Purple light cinnabar, rejected. Red light cinnabar, rejected. Flying dragon cinnabar, rejected. After a round of rejection, the only suitable result appeared before Feng Lin's eyes. Crimson refinement cinnabar. Chapter 377, Successful concoction of cinnabar pills. The crimson refinement cinnabar could be concocted using crimson fire crystals, star sand, and black crystal ores. It contained the elemental nature of fire and could trigger explosions, manifesting crimson-colored destructive clouds. In his inheritance, there was only a simple recipe to create this type of pills. As to its exact level of power, Feng Lin could only know after the cinnabar was created. Now, he had no other solutions left. This was the only path remaining to him. Feng Lin could only try it out. Since he was now already in a perilous situation, if he still cared so much about what-ifs, he would drown in his own hesitation and might as well simply wait for death. Crimson fire crystals, star sand, black crystal ores. The mineral reserves stored in this flying shuttle from his past excavation were all brought up. They shone with a myriad of colors, illuminating the entire control cabin. Alchemy was a type of art that required incomparable precision. He closed his eyes and adjusted his mental state, while reading through the information in his inheritance about this particular type of pill again and again. Cinnabar could be considered a type of external alchemy pill that was used for killing. The properties it contained were completely different from an internal alchemy pill. Internal alchemy pills required the medicinal potency to be restrained. They would form a perfect sphere as a prison to lock in the excess might of the potency. This way, the excess medicinal potency wouldn't be able to harm one's life structure and could allow the cells to evolve themselves from their roots, but for cinnabar, it was considered a killing-type pill. The stronger the might, the better it would be. One didn't need to pay too much attention to the minute details, thus, it was much more simple to refine and concoct it. Everything was fine as long as its base was stable and wouldn't explode at the slightest accidental touch. But even so, for the sake of safety, Feng Lin specially chose a remote cabin to attempt his concoction. After going through the steps repeatedly, Feng Lin began his attempt after confirming that he understood the principles. Furnace activated. Feng Lin pointed to the center of his brows as a purple fire seed manifested. It formed a unique resonance with the blazing flames in the furnace, allowing Feng Lin to control them. Crimson fire crystal. The furnace's flames blazed, creating waves of heat. Feng Lin didn't waste time and immediately tossed the first main ingredient into it. Under the power of the true fire, the reddish crystal was refined into a blood-red liquid. Impurities flowed out as the liquid was constantly being refined. In the end, only an extremely vibrant and clear red-colored solution remained. It shone brightly and seemed to be flawless. Star sand. The soft particle of sands glowed with a faint starlight. They were akin to stars in the sky and were extremely beautiful. Their appearance was beautiful, but the temperature of this ingredient was extremely low, around -200 degrees Celsius. It wasn't something that could be handled by one's bare hands. Feng Lin used his spirit force to place the star sand into the furnace. The intensity of the earth fiend true fire was controlled carefully by him. When the last particle of star sand fell into the red solution, silvery light flashed brightly. After some time of refinement, the solution thickened and a crystalline sphere of dual colors, silver and red, was formed. This crystal sparkled brightly. It was even more beautiful than the prettiest diamond in the world. Melt. Feng Lin went all out. His will caused the temperature to surge even higher as he turned the crystalline sphere into liquid once more. Black crystal ores. Feng Lin placed the main ingredients according to an ordered sequence. He remained calm and unflustered. The flames turned white, and the temperature soared to its max. These minerals were all substances that contained spirit particles. When mixed together, an energy reaction would occur. A dangerous aura was then emitted, resembling a load of gunpowder. Solidify. Feng Lin abruptly folded his hands. His spirit force entered the furnace, and he used the powerful flames to fuse everything together into a spheroid form. This crystal sphere was a brilliant red, a sign that the properties of each ingredient had been perfectly fused. Now, only the last step of refinement remained. The fire suddenly blazed brilliantly. The flames began to intensify, nurturing the environment within the furnace. Furnace close. With a clap of his hands, Feng Lin sealed the furnace, locking the power of the true fire within. Through the 8 windows of the furnace, one could see a sphere-like object continuously solidifying as it revolved about. The nearer it was to the end, the more Feng Lin couldn't relax. The concoction methods of all alchemy pills were different. One had to be aware of this. For the Crimson Refinement Cinnabar, one needed to make the sphere transform a total of 108 times before it could truly be concocted successfully. Feng Lin remained vigilant. His hands weaved in the air like dancing butterflies as he controlled the intensity of the true fire with a wondrous tempo. The flames in the furnace expanded and contracted according to his will. The power of the true fire gradually seeped into the sphere. After some time, a golden-colored round alchemy pill took form. It radiated treasure light. Anyone could tell it was an extraordinary treasure with just a single glance. Feng Lin made a snapping gesture. The furnace then opened as the golden pill floated into his palm. There were red clouds inscribed on the golden surface, and this object was none other than the Crimson Refinement Cinnabar. As he held it in his palm, he could instantly feel how extraordinary it was. It was packed to the brim with firepower. Once the might within erupted forth, the power unleashed would be unimaginable. Feng Lin then kept it carefully and began to meditate at the side, adjusting his mental state to its peak before he deactivated his furnace once more. Other than his first try being a success, he wasn't as lucky for the next few tries. In total, he failed 5 times, and after much persistence, he eventually managed to concoct a total of 10 Crimson Refinement Cinnabar pills. The concoction was a success, but he had no idea what was the magnitude of its might. Feng Lin gingerly touched the cinnabar pills in his hands as he contemplated. Warning, warning. A great number of spirit life forms are gradually closing in. At this moment, the AI suddenly warned. Quickly look, the spirit life forms appeared again. Flee quickly, let us enter a wormhole. No, the spirit giant beasts might be camping inside the wormholes. If we enter, we would surely die. What can we do then? We can only fight them head-on. The freshmen who were resting in the flying shuttle was shocked awake. Panic and chaos soon reigned. Quiet. An explosive shout rang out with the force of thunder, suppressing the atmosphere. The crowd then parted as a figure walked over. Feng Lin went to the center of the shuttle as he gazed outside. Other than the dark void of outer space, a group of 8 tentacles spirit octopuses gathered together. They were like the ocean tides that flowed unceasingly nearer to them with great speed. With just a single glance, he counted over 1,000 of them. Just a small team of spirit life forms? It's good that they came. I can use them to test the effects of my cinnabar pills. Feng Lin's eyes flickered with coldness. AI blast these 10 pills into the crowd of spirit life forms, he instructed. Yes. A mechanical arm came by and took the 10 pills away. The flying shuttle suddenly blasted out a golden cannonball that had the 10 cinnabar pills encased within. The cannonball flew forth with great speed and exploded in the midst of the spirit life forms. At the point of explosion, a flood of crimson light flashed and the scope of the light continued to expand. What is that? I have no idea too. It seemed that the shuttle shot out a cannonball? Everyone was deep in discussion. Quickly look. An exclamation rang out. The speed of the red light's extension grew increasingly quicker. It was like a ball of embers that continued spreading outwards like wildfire. Those spirit life forms had met their bane. All of them were frenziedly in retreat, fleeing in all directions. The moment their energy-based bodies came in contact with the red light, they would feel their bodies burning and their cells disintegrating into nothingness. Feng Lin's eyes gleamed brightly. Under his spirit perception, he could see everything clearly. The cinnabar pills were a type of energy catalyst that caused energy substances to rapidly react with it. In the end, both the pills and the substances would end in mutual destruction. To spirit life forms that had energy-based bodies, this cinnabar pill was basically a plague. They fled quickly and soon vanished completely from the area. What is that crimson light? What just happened exactly? Could that be a method of our captain? Everyone felt puzzled as they began to speculate. However, all of these were no longer important. After the danger was abated, everyone was cheering with joy. It seemed like his alchemy knowledge was truly a huge treasure trove that he needed to excavate regularly to gain information. This seemingly deadly situation brought on by the spirit life forms was now neutralized. A smile also appeared on Feng Lin's face. "MHM." All of a sudden, his smile froze as he suddenly thought of something. He quickly rushed back to his pill concoction chamber, leaving everyone else behind. The freshmen were stunned. They stood in their original location and exchanged mutual glances of confusion. Chapter 378, Mythology-Style Medicinal Refinement Technique. Did Captain just discover something? I'm not sure. Let's hope he would have some new ideas. Before this, all his methods were extremely effective. He's simply the bane of the spirit race. It's too miraculous. Everyone was celebrating due to having exterminated the small team of spirit life forms that pursued them. However, the Captain Feng Lin didn't say anything and immediately returned to his own cabin. It was unknown what he was researching. Everyone couldn't help but exchange mutual glances as they started a discussion. Their voices and words were filled with anticipation and conjectures. If their captain could still use that powerful method earlier to injure and kill the spirit life forms, they might really be able to survive. Numerous gazes turned to the door of Feng Lin's cabin that was tightly closed. Hope could be seen in their eyes. The states of heart of all the freshmen here were now completely different. But Feng Lin, who was the cause of everything, was completely ignorant about this. Then again, even if he knew, he wouldn't have cared too much about this. He was currently researching the nature of the Crimson Refinement Cinnabar. The power of the cinnabar pills exceeded his imagination. It was like an energy catalyst that could cause energy substances to have violent and intense reactions, releasing a vast quantity of power that reinforced the power of self-destruction. And the cinnabar itself was just a catalyst, it wouldn't consume too much energy. To the spirit race, the cinnabar pill was simply like a bout of plague. As long as they came in contact with the slightest bit of it, their lives would be heavily injured. Poison to others is good medicine for oneself. The power of the cinnabar pills was so shocking. How could Feng Lin not want to research it more? He already managed to see a ray of hope for survival. As to whether they would be able to slaughter a path of survival out from the grasp of the spirit race, it all depended on the quantity of the cinnabar pills they had. What he needed to do now was to gather everyone to concoct the Crimson Refinement Cinnabar pills. After all, if he was the only one concocting it, how long would he need before he could amass a sizable quantity? Only by working together with everyone would the chances of their survival be increased substantially. The methods of concoction were truly extremely complex, touching on the complicated alchemy methods. These were all secrets that couldn't be easily passed down. It was impossible for Feng Lin to pass this knowledge to all the freshmen. Even if he wanted to, they wouldn't understand the principles within. Hence, he had to simplify the creation process, changing the Crimson Refinement Cinnabar pill into the Crimson Refinement Genetic Potion or Crimson Refinement Medicinal Crystals. This wasn't a foolish idea. Before this, Feng Lin already had the experience of simplifying the Dustfall Immortal pill. As long as he spent some effort, it wouldn't be difficult for him. After some thoughts, he already had the feeling that this was the correct path. If he wanted to simplify a pill formula, the 4 words formula was of the essence: water, refinement, fire, evaporation. Genetic potions were different from alchemy pills, which were refined by fire from the start to the end. Water refinement, fire evaporation meant that the geneticist had to use genetic medicinal refinement methods to handle the medicinal ingredients, causing them to be distilled into a liquid state as he combined them together. The geneticist then had to use techniques like medicinal potency reaction to test the solution. The technique used had to be gentle, using mortal fire to evaporate the liquid, causing the liquid solution to turn into medicinal crystals. By doing so, the product naturally wouldn't be alchemy pills whose medicinal potency was completely concentrated. But although the medicinal potency would be reduced, it would still be stronger compared to ordinary genetic potions. As long as he could simplify the formula, even a geneticist would be able to concoct this. These steps sounded simple, but different alchemy pills required different simplification methods. He had to do more research. Feng Lin closed his eyes and sank into contemplation. His thoughts spun rapidly. After some time, his eyes gleamed brightly. He already had a solution. Creak, creak, creak. A crystal with a faint reddish hue was brought before him. It was quickly cut through by the apparatus and became powder. After that, the impurities were removed and a rare agent was mixed together with it, eventually formulating it into a red-colored solution. Feng Lin followed the formula, adding the star sand, black crystal ores, and the other required ingredients. He ground them into powder before mixing them with the solution. After that, he used the power of fire to provide the evaporation effect, promoting the reaction of medicinal particles. A subtle reaction was produced by the red solution. It suddenly glowed with an amber hue before the color deepened to the color of the crimson refinement cinnabar pill. Feng Lin started to act. His spirit force carefully seeped into the bottles of solution as he paid close attention to their reactions. Occasionally, he would use his spirit force to aid the fusion of medicinal properties. All the changes that happened would be within his grasp. After awakening the Monkey King gene, his spirit force had grown to an unimaginable extent. He now had precise control over microparticles with just a sliver of his thought. This was truly miraculous to the extreme. Now, Feng Lin could precisely control the reaction process of potion concoction. Once flaws or strangeness appeared, he could instantly act to fix them. Very soon, a medicinal smell filled with the gunpowder aura of the cinnabar pill was emitted from the crimson solution. Medicinal crystallization technique. Feng Lin didn't stop to rest. He immediately started the next step and used his spirit force to control the strength of the fire. He was evaporating the liquid solution, burning all impurities away and causing medicinal crystals to form. He sent his spirit force into it, aiding the fusion from a microscopic point of view. The power of mortal fire could only forcefully mix the medicinal properties together, and it had no way to truly unleash the miraculous effect of a true fire. But at the very least, it could retain 50% to 60% of the potency of an alchemy pill. If it was purely a genetic potion, it would already be very good if it could retain 20% to 30% of the medicinal potency. After all, the medicinal crystallization technique was just a simplified technique of alchemy. Even though it wasn't as powerful as alchemy, it still contained some principles that were more outstanding than normal potion concoction. This was a brand new technique that Feng Lin created by fusing his insights of both systems. Feng Lin calmed his thoughts and began to focus. Although this was merely the simplified version of the cinnabar pill, the process was extremely complex. He didn't dare to fantasize and had to focus fully. He increased the strength of the fire to aid the fusion process. In his eyes, red-colored crystals were gradually forming in the solution. These crystals sparkled brilliantly as a violent and savage aura was emitted from them. They felt like bombs that could explode at any moment and had the power to blast everything in the surroundings into pieces. The medicinal potency was too powerful. Feng Lin felt that something was wrong. The crimson refinement cinnabar pill was a killing pill. Its might was incomparably tyrannical, different from those alchemy pills whose medicinal potency was locked in. These crystals contained the fire element within. Once they were fully formed, they would be extremely sensitive to touch and could be considered as transcendent gunpowder. Once they exploded, the consequences would be unimaginably dire. The crystal bodies were too big, thus, it was too powerful and was prone to explode at the slightest stimulus. He contemplated a little and thought of a solution. His spirit force acted like a blade, rapidly slicing away the excess medicinal potency, causing the large crystals in the midst of forming to be split into several smaller pieces. Chi, chi, chi. The aura of gunpowder emitted out as the solution reduced in volume. Feng Lin also specially controlled the fire, weakening its intensity. If the fire intensity was too high, it would be easy for the crystals to explode. When the solution was completely evaporated, the fire died out. A pile of tiny red crystals floated in the air by virtue of Feng Lin's spirit force. Feng Lin controlled and moved them into vacuum test tubes. Although the crystals looked ordinary, he could sense a violent aura from them. His heart stirred as a thought suddenly flashed through his mind. Alchemy was too vast and profound. There were numerous recipes with extraordinary medicinal effects that contained their own usefulness. Currently, his mental energy had a limit to it, and his time was limited as well. Alchemy pills took up too much effort, so there was no need for him to fully master all alchemy recipes. He could completely simplify them into genetic potions. Although the medicinal potency would drop drastically, it would allow him to enjoy a quantitative advantage. To the current him, this option was truly more beneficial. Simplification of alchemy pills into medicinal refinement? Feng Lin faintly sensed that he had found a method that could produce the greatest effect from the alchemy pills, found in ancient mythology records. Mythology-style medicinal refinement technique? Chapter 379, Assembly Line Production. Huaxia mythology was the broadest and the most profound, with the records of countless legends. According to records, ancient Huaxia cultivators paid particular attention to defying the heavens to cultivate. They had a total of 4 great methods: pills, formations, treasures, and talismans. Alchemy was ranked first. Alchemy could seize good fortune from the heavens and earth and insert the luck into medicinal substance, creating alchemy pills with wondrous effects. This was the most effective method for ancient cultivators to increase their cultivation. After so many years of excavating mythological ruins, more and more ancient knowledge was being restored. But even so, huge blanks still covered across numerous fields of knowledge. Even up until now, Feng Lin hadn't heard of anyone else understanding alchemy. And as for that complete inheritance he had gained, it might very well be one of the peak-tier alchemy inheritance from the ancient Huaxia mythology era. Its value was priceless. If this was leaked, the consequences would surely be unimaginably dire. Given his current strength, he wouldn't be able to protect himself for sure if his secret was leaked. Right now, the situation was extremely urgent. The spirit race was hunting them down and there was no point for him to reveal this at all. Also, because the requirements of alchemy were extremely strict, the other freshmen definitely wouldn't be able to learn it within such a short period. He would only have revealed his secret for nothing if he did so. But now, with his mythology-style medicinal refinement technique, he didn't need to worry about this. He would be able to simplify the wondrous effects of alchemy, distilling their essence into the simpler and more basic medicinal refinement art. Alchemy was boundlessly profound. Although it might be simplified, its potency would surely far surpass ordinary potions. The Crimson Refinement Cinnabar pill was normally a red color pill. Now that it was simplified into crystals, it became a pile of much smaller crystals that were extremely unstable. They couldn't come in contact with the external world and could only be sealed in vacuum test tubes. These small crystals contained the violence of gunpowder. It felt extraordinary. Since these are medicinal crystals, it's no longer apt to name them as Crimson Refinement Cinnabar pills. We will call it Crimson Refinement Gunpowder instead. Feng Lin smiled as he thought of a name. He then recorded down the entire process of creation except for the final crystallization step. The other parts of the medicinal refinement could be handled by others, but the last step was the most crucial one. He had to have absolute control of it and wouldn't leak it to anyone. Only so would he be able to prevent others from stealing the concoction method. Without the medicinal crystallization technique, the solution wouldn't be able to replicate the original effect of the cinnabar pills. When he thought of this, he then grabbed the test tubes of crimson refinement gunpowder and walked out, gathering the freshmen. "Captain, is there something you need from us? Could it be that he has a new discovery? Who knows? Let's see what he wants." The gazes of everyone turned to Feng Lin as they discussed in low voices. Feng Lin swept his gaze over to everyone and calmly spoke, "Who among you are geneticists? Step forward." "I am one." "Me too." Very soon, the freshman replied. Out of over 300 people, there was actually a total of 30 geneticists. This ratio was truly frightening. Even Feng Lin hadn't expected this. Geneticists all had a certain level of understanding with regards to genetic knowledge. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to compare to them. Out of 1,000 cultivators, there might not even be one geneticist. Yet, 10% of the people here were actually geneticists. The ratio was extremely high. As expected of the students of the Great Wall University, all of them had outstanding potential. If a cultivator wished to grow in strength rapidly, they couldn't be lacking in the 4 principles of wealth, companion, law, and earth. Without sufficient resources, no matter how talented one was, it would be tough for them to reach the peak. Feng Lin understood this point very well. If it weren't for him being a geneticist and an alchemist, given his background, it would have been impossible for him to have sufficient accumulations during the start of his cultivation phase and walk out from Earth. "What grades of refiners are you all?" Feng Lin asked. "I'm an initial grade medicinal refiner. Mid-grade here. I'm of the high grade." The geneticists glanced at each other and replied. In total, there were 2 high-grade medicinal refiners, 8 mid-grades, and 20 low grades. After an initial count, joy appeared on Feng Lin's face. He felt that his plan now had a high chance of success. If he could combine the strength of these 30 geneticists and use them well, the result would surely surpass his imaginations. "This is a medicinal recipe I've done some research and modifications to. Look over it and quickly began to refine the ingredients. These genetic potions would be extremely important for us, and we have to depend on it to deal with the spirit race," stated Feng Lin straightforwardly as he passed the recipe of the crimson refinement gunpowder to them. "Captain, did you use this earlier to destroy the previous small team of spirit life forms? Is the medicinal recipe mature yet? You do things so quickly." Everyone was stunned. "Indeed." Feng Lin nodded in reply to the first question. After that, everyone grew increasingly curious. What medicinal recipe was this exactly? It could actually injure and kill the spirit life forms. This was simply incredible. Those geneticists quickly opened up the recipe and studied it. At the next instant, their eyes widened so much that their eyeballs nearly popped out. What? Medicinal refinement techniques can do this? A genetic potion with killing might. Is this still a genetic potion? This is a medicinal refinement recipe that has no soul to it. Who cares about that? If this recipe is true and can really counter the spirit race, it would truly be unbelievable. It would surely usher in a brand new school of thought for geneticists. Those geneticists had looks of disbelief on their faces. It was like a whole new world had opened up before them. Genetic potions that were originally used to aid cultivation were now used as weapons. In the past, although there were people with creative imaginations who thought about this before, they at most only managed to concoct some poison potions. For this crimson refinement gunpowder, it innately contained an explosive killing might. In theory, it was impossible to achieve this. In its liquid form, the potency would be highly unstable and the killing might it contained would be simply insufficient. It wouldn't be able to unleash its full potential. Even if the liquid solution was stored in vacuum test tubes, things wouldn't work out either. This recipe wasn't scientific or genetic at all. Captain, it isn't that we doubt you, but this medicinal recipe is simply impossible. It won't be able to achieve the effects that you state. In fact, what you've stated actually contradicts the theory of medicinal refinement, said one of the high-grade medicinal refiners. That's right. I've never heard of something like this before. This isn't scientific in the slightest. The other medicinal refiners also nodded. Indeed. If it was in liquid form, the crimson refinement gunpowder would naturally be ineffective. But how could these people know how wondrous the medicinal crystallization technique was? Just follow the instructions in the letter until you achieve the liquid form with the medicinal potency stated in the recipe. After that, pass all the concocted solutions to me. Feng Lin calmly spoke and didn't bother to explain further. Upon seeing how confident he was, those geneticists glanced at each other but no longer said anything else. After all, they were now in a perilous situation. Their safety depended on Feng Lin, and they truly didn't have the freedom to doubt him. They could only choose to trust him. However, this didn't mean that they had no doubts in their hearts. We want to see exactly what method do you have to turn something rotten into something magical. How can you create a potion that has sufficient killing might? After that, the geneticists all gathered in the medicinal refinement chamber of the flying shuttle and began their refinement. Fortunately, the recipe wasn't overly complex. Under Feng Lin's careful guidance, these people gradually understood the crux of the recipe and grew increasingly proficient. Soon, numerous tubes of crimson refinement gunpowder solutions were produced. All the geneticists focused and gave it their all, producing batches after batches of the red solution. Low-grade medicinal refiners were responsible for the beginning steps, the handling of the medicinal ingredients. For the mid-grade medicinal refiners, they were in charge of mixing the various ingredients and balancing the medicinal properties to create a certain level of medicinal potency. For high-grade medicinal refiners, they were responsible for monitoring changes to the solution and had to fix the flaws discovered until everything was perfect. The standard operating procedures were already given to them by Feng Lin. With an assembly line like this, the output was much greater compared to when Feng Lin was working alone. As the production of the crimson refinement gunpowder increased, Feng Lin's eyes shone with a bright light. A crazy plan started to form in his mind. Chapter 380, Crazy Plan. If the plan wasn't crazy enough, the hope of survival wouldn't be high. Now that they were in such a perilous situation, if they still conformed to normal rules and logic, they would only be waiting for death. The energy within the flying shuttle was rapidly being consumed. If they didn't enter a wormhole, it would be impossible for them to finish the journey. In the end, all of them would die when the energy reserve of the flying shuttle was exhausted. Outside the flying shuttle, there were only vast stretches of blank space, a vacuum environment. There was nothing else. Despite the fact that the Flower Fruit Mountain shuttle had a large amount of energy reserve at the start, if there were no minerals or resources that could be extracted nearby to replenish its expenditure, it was only natural that the energy reserve would be used up. If they continued waiting, there would truly be no difference from death. Only by cutting off all means of retreat would they be able to struggle through and find a ray of hope for survival. At this moment, an incomparably bold and crazy plan already began to form in Feng Lin's mind. But now, the time wasn't ripe yet. He had to make ample preparations before the plan could work. The geneticists worked together, forming an extremely effective assembly line that operated like flowing water. In a single day, over 100 liters of crimson refinement gunpowder solution was created. Feng Lin used his spirit force and made the solution float in the air. He then controlled them to float after him as he headed into the secret medicinal refinement chamber at the depths of the flying shuttle, while avoiding the gazes of the crowd. How is he going to handle these potions? Would the crimson refinement gunpowder really have the same effect as what the medicinal recipe says? Would it be able to unleash unfathomable might? Unbelievable. The geneticists stared at his departing back as they were filled with extreme curiosity. Feng Lin didn't bother with them and had already started the next step in secret. The medicinal crystallization technique must not be easily divulged. In the future, he would depend on this as a core technique to set up his own school of thoughts in medicinal refinement. He naturally didn't want people to pry into this. Inside the medicinal refinement chamber, Feng Lin's spirit force gushed forth. The 100 liters of crimson refinement gunpowder floated in the air as he began to refine them all in one go. Given his current powerful mental state, he could already multitask effectively. Let alone doing two things simultaneously, it wasn't even a problem for him to focus and do 1,000 things together at the same time. He continued to perform hand gestures to control the intensity of the fire. His spirit force was like a knife, rapidly slashing through the red solution and splitting them into smaller portions. Under the augmentation of his spirit force, the fire was controlled perfectly, blazing slowly. Very soon, each portion of solution began to generate tiny crystals. Chi, chi, chi. The solution continued to evaporate as the smell of gunpowder permeated the atmosphere. Tiny red crystals formed and could be seen floating in the remainder of the solution. Splitting his focus to multitask on so many things was something Feng Lin had never attempted before. But since he had a feeling he could succeed, he simply went ahead and did it. However, if his spirit force was used in such a manner over a long period, the amount of consumption would be extremely great as well. Although he had succeeded, it didn't mean that it had been effortless for him. Feng Lin adjusted his breathing and calmed his state of mind. He continued to perform hand gestures and control the intensity of the fire. Whew! Finally, he heaved a sigh of relief as a smile appeared on his face. The solution was now completely evaporated, leaving behind a pile of tiny floating crystals that shone resplendently. Feng Lin controlled his spirit force and continued to refine them. After all, 100 liters of solution was refined, the end result was a bucket of tiny red crystals. He then sealed the crystals into vacuum test tubes and walked out of the chamber, instantly attracting the attention of all the geneticists. It is really a success? Genetic potions in a solid state, how is this possible? These crystals contain vast amounts of energy within. They are simply akin to explosives. These geneticists were like children who had received their favorite toys. They continued to observe the crystals with a look of awe and disbelief on their faces. One must know that before this, none of them had believed that it would have succeeded. This wasn't scientific at all, not genetic at all. But now, the truth was clearly displayed before their eyes. The medicinal recipe was truly effective. The unscientific had become the scientific. So medicinal refinement could be done like this as well. Solid-state genetic potions, how did this Feng Lin accomplish this? Many of the geneticists here had awoken spirit or mental-type mythological genes. They used their mental energy to probe and soon discovered the violent medicinal potency within the crystals. In their perception, they could see the medicinal potency was being locked together by a unique crystalline structure which forced the potion to enter the solid state. Their lips trembled, they weren't able to say anything. Their gazes at Feng Lin became different. Not only was this Feng Lin good at cultivation, but he could also be a geneticist that could open up his own school of thought. How many methods did he still have in reserve? Feng Lin basked in the looks of admiration and awe from everyone before calmly smiling. Now, you all should believe that the medicinal recipe is genuine, right? With these objects, we would have a chance of survival and can escape the pursuit of the spirit race. Now, let us continue to concoct more of the crimson refinement solution. Right. The geneticists glanced at each other. Their confidence was now greatly boosted as they began to focus and started another bout of concoction. Everyone did their own assigned task well. The assembly line operated like flowing water, and bottles of red solutions were produced by batches and being sent to Feng Lin where they were further refined into medicinal crystals. The geneticists also grew increasingly familiar with the concoction process and their efficiency continued to rise. As more and more tubes of crimson crystals appeared, Feng Lin's eyes shone with hope. He felt that the distance between his goal was shortening. The crazy plan in his mind could finally be started upon. Other than taking short breaks to rest and recover their energy, Feng Lin and the geneticists were relentless as they continued to concoct. This crimson refinement gunpowder would be the key to their escape from the spirit race. Thus, none of the geneticists dared slack off. Finally, at noon, 3 days later, the concoction process stopped. What? The medicinal ingredients are used up? Feng Lin was astonished when he heard the report from one of the high-grade medicinal refiners. Without realizing it, the medicinal ingredients had been depleted, but they now had a small mountain of crimson refinement gunpowder. But even so, all of these were far from sufficient. If they wanted to deal with the spirit race army, the more crystals they had, the better it would naturally be. With every additional portion, their chances of success would be greater as well. But now that there were no longer any medicinal ingredients, what should they do? Feng Lin furrowed his brows. Captain, I have a plan. Some freshmen had interspatial equipment and might have some medicinal ingredients stored with them. How about we gather the ingredients from them? Logical. Feng Lin nodded when he heard that. He instantly used the AI to broadcast a message to everyone. Dear fellow students, our supply of medicinal ingredients is all used up. Now, we are going to collect medicinal ingredients from all of you in order to concoct more crimson refinement gunpowder, to deal with the spirit race. Whether or not we can survive now depends on all of you. Take note, if you have the following ingredients, please hand them over. Crimson crystals, star sand, black crystal ores. This method saw an instant effect. The freshmen naturally understood that their lives were more important. They obediently handed over the relevant medicinal ingredients that they had on them. Feng Lin nodded silently when he saw the situation. Although there might be some internal conflicts among humans when vying for resources, everyone could put aside their differences decisively when they had to face external enemies. This was also the reason why humans could occupy territories despite their mid to low-grade technology. This was their way of survival. If the hearts of everyone could be united, there would surely be hope. Finally, after drifting about in outer space for 10 days, the ingredients they could collect had all been refined into the crimson refinement gunpowder, which caused their storage to be filled to the brim with it. Through the AI, Feng Lin began to broadcast a message to those in the flying shuttle. Fellow students, there are no minerals or resources in our surrounding space. Moreover, the energy reserve of the ship is continuously being consumed and we have no way to replenish it. If this continues on, we would be simply waiting for death. Hence, I've now come up with a crazy plan. I feel that this is our only chance of survival. Success and failure all hinged on this. His voice boomed with power, echoing throughout the flying shuttle. At this moment, regardless of what the freshmen were busy with, all of them stopped their actions and inclined their heads, listening attentively.